Okay, guys. So, as we know, Mr. Joe has dropped out. Mr. Sleepy Joe has dropped out. And now we got Kamala in the race against Donald Trump. And we got Jordan Peterson here. And the video is titled, "Should You Dare Criticize Kamala Harris?" I have not seen this yet. So without any further ado, let's get right into it and see what Mr. Jordan Peterson has to say.
I was just watching a congressman from the U.S. today claiming that the critics of Biden after the last debate are ableist.
Yeah, I saw that.
I mean, well, I don't even know what to think about
Ableist.
that. It's like, I see. So now here's your theory. Your theory is that it doesn't matter whether the president of the United States is able, because all discrimination between being able and unable is a form of prejudice, and that even applies with regards to the president of the United States.
He said being able and unable is a form of prejudice.
And so that means that all the people who are concerned that there might be something astray with him cognitively that we're being lied to about at a level that's almost inconceivable are now equivalent to like KKK racists from the 1940s. And that's your argument.
And by the way, in relation to the same...
So if we're being lied to and you challenge that lie, you're compared to a KKK racist. This is the world we are now living in, folks.
Critique of his vice president. Should you dare to criticize Kamala Harris, you are de facto a racist. But
yes, Gavin Newsom said that.
But the only reason that you would feel the need to criticize this black woman, his vice president, is not that she's been completely incompetent in her job, which any impartial observer would conclude, but it has to be because of her skin color and her gender. And
even though that's why she was put in the damn position to begin with.
Joe Biden said publicly, "I want a black woman," right? And then he gets a black woman who is massively underperformed, which hasn't helped him at all. But no one's allowed to criticize her, because if you do,
black or
you'll
Indian,
be called a racist. And I find that one of the laziest tropes out there in modern society. It's a way of, I think we've discussed it before, but it's a way of stifling honest debate. It's a way of censoring legitimate criticism.
It's a way of asserting moral superiority that's unearned. That's a lovely
and actually, none of them really mean it. I mean, it is the genuine epitome of virtue signaling. What they're really, I mean, I remember for example, I remember when the George Floyd murder happened. It was a horrific incident, of course. But I remember that soon after that, there was a Black Square Day announced on Instagram, where everybody had to signal their virtue about this by doing a black square. Now, I'd spent the entire morning on Good Morning Britain hosting debates about the George Floyd killing and showing enormous empathy and support for Black Lives Matter.
You remember that black square? And they made you feel as if you were doing something wrong if you didn't put the black square as your profile picture.
And what had happened. This is very early stages, before a lot of stuff came out about the organization Black Lives Matter, which put a rather different gloss on them. But the principle that, this had been a terrible killing, that this man should never have been killed, that it was possibly racially motivated, all that kind of stuff. I was debating this with an absolutely open mind and being very empathetic to all these arguments. But I didn't do my black square on Instagram. And my sons got in touch with me and said, "Dad, you got to do your black square." I went, "Why?" "We're getting criticized because you haven't done it." And I actually had posted a picture of a bottle of rosé wine, because I was having one in my local square. And I hadn't given any thought to the rule that I had to signal my virtue about this thing. And I then got absolutely annihilated by people saying, "How dare you do this? Where is your black square?" And I remember thinking, but all of you are going to go right back tomorrow morning to posting inane, self-aggrandizing.
How many of you guys watch the series Black Mirror? This is like a scene out of Black Mirror. Matter of fact, everything that's been playing out since the debate between Biden and Trump has been playing out like a Black Mirror movie script.
Photographs of yourselves on beaches or in nightclubs or in Ferraris or whatever. None of this means anything to you. Whereas tomorrow morning, I'll be back on air doing another 3 hours of debate about this to try and get the society in the world in relation to this issue back to a place of better racial justice. Now, which one is going to have a better effect on influencing people's minds?
There you go, being ableist again.
Right, and that's the point, is that I found it such a trite and kind of pointless example of this cult of virtue signaling.
It's worse than that. So I just finished a book, which is going to be published in November, and I walked through a sequence of biblical stories trying to explain what they meant psychologically, and I spent some time on the book of Exodus for obvious reasons, and there's a commandment in there that people misapprehend. So I think it's the third commandment. Don't use God's name. Thou shalt not use the Lord's name in vain. And people think that means don't swear or curse. And it sort of means that. There's a peripheral meaning that is associated with that casual use of the sacred, let's say. But that isn't what it means. It means don't claim divine virtue when you're working for your own purposes. And the same thing happens in the gospel account, say, because the Pharisees...
Don't claim divine virtue when you're working for your own purposes.
Who are Christ's primary enemy are the people he accuses of utilizing the sacred, the deepest, so you could say compassion even, given its proper place, for their own self-aggrandizement. They're praying in public. They're trying to occupy the best seats in the marketplace. They want the best seats in the synagogues, etc. That's the accusation. And so that virtue signaling, it's not merely, it's an expression of an unbelievably deep and ignorant narcissism, right? It's part of the victim-victimizer narrative, first of all, which explains all of history with no cognitive effort. And then it's these performative gestures that make you morally virtuous, right? And one of the consequences of that, too, is as soon as you're morally virtuous like that, you get to specify the victimizer who's your enemy and tear them into shreds, and that's actually a moral act. And I mean, you saw a bit of that, you said, with the black square. But it's an unbelievably pathological...
But it was fascinating to me that my own children, all in their 20s at the time, that they were being contacted by friends saying, why has your dad done this picture of a bottle of wine? Where's his black square? And they were kind of damned by association. And were keen for me to rectify this problem. And I had to say...
But there's a tribal signaling there, too.
And I said, guys, I'm not going to do it. I'm sorry. I'm just not going to feel bullied into doing something that I think actually is pointless and trite, and that all the people doing it don't really care much about.
I remember thinking, when I saw the people with the black square, like this was they thought they were being activists. And it's like, you're not doing any, you just changed your profile picture to black. You're not, this means nothing in a form of activism or covering ground or moving the goalposts. All you did was change the color on your profile picture. So this is not a protest.
About this cause, and will be very quickly back to their normal work on Instagram, which is pumping themselves up and showing off and all the things people do on Instagram. I said, I'm just not going to play this game.
Well, there's no cost to doing it, right? To putting up a black square.
Right.
You can indicate someone's commitment. That's exactly
Instagram
right.
is pointless. All Instagram is people promoting themselves and trying to get you to buy a product or get to click on their external link. The Instagram is completely pointless.
No hard work.
Why did you use sacrifice? Is that?
Well, because I think that
Instagram is just a sales
really
funnel.
Support a cause, whatever that cause may be, at some point you have to show a bit of sacrifice to that cause. You have to commit time or money or resources or whatever it may be to support reputation, put your head over the parapet. There has to be an element of risk and an element of sacrifice. Now, if all you're doing is following the hashtag trend of the day, there's no sacrifice, there's no risk-taking. In fact, it's the opposite.
Reverse. Yes,
it's actually more courageous to say, I'm not going to do that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do this. And it's a far more tangible and effective way of trying to get racial injustice to a better place, which
Whenever I see the masses going left, I'll go right. Whenever I see the masses all coming together in group think, I usually step back from that and think not the opposite, but something different. In most cases.
everybody should share that desire. And I just feel that it comes back to what you said earlier about the victimhood generation. The one common theme of the people who play that victim card all the time is they almost never show any sacrifice for anything. It's all about themselves. It's all about, how can I get pity? How can I be showered in sympathy? How can I become almost famous for failure and celebrated for it? Rather
Famous
than
for
the way I
failure.
was brought up, which is you celebrated success, you drowned your sorrows with failure, and you didn't let it take you down or destroy you, and you dusted yourself down and got back on with it. But the idea of celebrating failure, the idea of celebrating coming last at the school sports day, the idea that everyone had to get a participation prize, even if they were terrible at something. No,
Right.
I wasn't very good at athletics at school. I was very good at cricket. I was one of the best cricket players aged 12 in the country. And my dream was to be a professional cricketer. I never made it. My other dream was to be a journalist. I made that. But I was terrible at athletics. My two brothers were brilliant at athletics. They used to win everything. But I used to always win the non-finalist race. And I was very happy about that. Because I said to my...
What is that?
Well, so everyone who didn't win a race got put in the non-finalist race. So you were the kind of lepers with the most fingers, right? For want of a crass phrase. And the point was that you were competing against other losers, but you could still win something. And I thought, I'm going to be the best loser because I'm crap at this. I can't really run or hurdle or throw javelins or anything like that. But I can beat this lot. And I was proud of that. But I never mistook it for actual glory or winning. And I think people that, I see people on social media, they say, I'm so proud of myself. I just passed my driving test at the 11th attempt. And I'm like, why would you want anybody to know that? Why would you want anyone to know that you're so completely clueless at driving? It took you 11 attempts to pass your driving test. And what do you want me to do? Do you want me to
Probably
send you champagne?
because...
Do you want to, do you want to be trending #1 around the world for being the worst driver in the world? What are you celebrating here?
Probably just happy to have it done. They probably don't want an accolade. They just want to share that they're happy that they got it out of the way. I see his point, though.
You passed your driving test at the 11th attempt. I'm pleased for you, but I'm not proud of you. This is not something that should instill pride in you. And I think that's where society's so warped now. We celebrate failure.
We also celebrate pride.
And pride.
Like formally.
Right, exactly.
Yes.
And we also, we've started to feel bad
Celebrate
about
pride
winners.
formally.
We don't really feel comfortable with winners anymore, especially if they're a little bit self-confident. And yet I think they're the best possible role model.
So really quick, I'll do a full video about this, what I'm about to say, but a lot of what I posted on my main channel and in the beginning, a lot of the kind of debauchery stuff that I was, for lack of a better word, pushing, it was because I saw here in the US that even doing good, you'll get criticized for that and even put on the chopping block for being too good. So what they're saying is people are being happy for or promoting being like a loser, where my pushback was the mirror of kind of what they're talking about. Like I wasn't necessarily saying, look at me, I'm such a loser, I'm happy being a loser, but I was more saying like, they're going to acknowledge me more for the debauchery behavior than pushing something more righteous. Now, it's a difficult one because do you want the attention for promoting debaucherous behavior, or do you want to find a way to maybe get less attention, but you've got your soul intact? So you have to balance that and make sure that you are moving towards a goal that is fulfilling for your soul and your well-being and the well-being of society as a whole, if possible.
Out there. people that can perform in the cauldron of great sport or entertainment, whatever it may be. You know, I watched all the sort of jealous sniping about Taylor Swift, for example, and then I went to her concert at Wembley. Absolutely mind-blowing experience. It's not because she's the best singer in the world or the best dancer or the best actress or the best pianist or the best guitarist, even though she does all those things. It's just I've never seen an audience so at one with the performer where she gave them what they wanted. 3.5 hours of banging hits on a massive stage with huge theatrics. Every kid there, including my 12-year-old daughter, had a fantastic time. But the sniping, she doesn't sing every song live. She's this, she's that. She's written all these songs herself. She's grossing $2 billion on this tour. Pro rata, the biggest tour in the history.
So that's what I'm talking about.
Bigger than the Beatles when they played Shea Stadium.
Taylor Swift is known for working hard, grinding. She's made herself what she is, and they're sniping her. So it's like you're damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Yet the natural reaction of a lot of people.
So where do you go
snipe,
with that?
Whilst pretending, you can almost bet they all have #BeKind in their ex bios. In other words, I'm a really kind person. I'm a tolerant person. I'm a nice person. And I'll destroy any of you fascists who deviate from my woke worldview. But when it comes to Taylor Swift, I'm going to bitch all over her. I'm going to trash her. I'm going to be envious and resentful and jealous and all these things, which flies completely in the face of what they're pretending to be. And it's that complete double standard that I see with so many of the, for want of a better phrase, the woke brigade, as I call them. But it is as Elon Musk has said, it's a mind virus. And they are actually leading lives and behaving in a way that is completely the opposite of what they are masquerading as.
Fake nice. Fake nice. Fake nice. So, guys, the answer to that is to not get emotionally involved in anything. The dogs are seeing something out the window here. Hopefully they don't bark. So the answer to that, guys, is to not get emotionally involved in anything. When you see these folks who have the woke mind virus or who have this like fake nice, like he said, they have be kind in their profile, and then they're quick to tear you down. So they're not really who they say they are. They're living a image in their mind, but then when they're out, they're not nice with other human beings they're interacting with, right? So what do? We silently observe from the sidelines, go about our business, work on ourselves and our relationship with God and any other goals that we may have. Like I said, you're gonna have people tearing you down for whatever you do. So make sure that what you're doing is in line with your soul. Don't go out and say that you're all about peace and love, and then when they shoot you down, go back to the debaucherous behavior, because that's ultimately just going to lead to a downward spiral. It's difficult working on yourself in a good way. A lot of that you're not going to get outside acknowledgement, and you shouldn't expect that, because everyone's going to have their opinion. People will misinterpret things. You may say something righteous and then they take it completely out of context. You may say something, and when I say righteous, guys, I mean things that are on the right path, towards God, towards good moral character. And it doesn't. When I say righteous, I don't mean something that's mind blowing. That's a catchphrase that's gonna change someone's life. I mean pushing towards the right way. When we make a decision, that you can use your gut, use your conscience. Does it lean towards God? Does it lean towards the devil? Very, very simple way to make any decision. Does it lean towards good, or does it lean towards evil? Your gut will tell you that in any decision that you have to make. Thank you guys for watching, and leave me your comments down below. Let me know if I missed anything or what you thought of what we just watched here. Thank you guys. Peace, love.